So two things before we start. My t-shirt, obviously, because I have no idea what I'm doing. Also, I still can't believe they're letting me do this. Talk to you all about myself. This talk is not going to be technical at all. Well, maybe a little bit, but we'll see. So this is me on a big stage with about 1,000 people in the audience. And this was my first presentation as the CTO of a company almost 10 years ago. And I was standing there, and my only thought was, I really don't belong here. I'd been working for this company for more than 10 years by this point. I knew, a lot of people. I knew the company. I was, pretty happy overall. But I still felt I didn't belong here. And that was the start of my journey of discovering, okay, there's, not something wrong with me, but there's something going on. It's weird that I'm in that position, CTO of a company of 1,000 people, and I felt I didn't belong there. I felt like I was a fraud, an imposter. So that's my story. Because right then, right there, I felt like an imposter. And I was acutely aware that if I said something wrong on that stage, everyone was going to find out I was an imposter. So that's why I'm here, because that experience led me over a number of years to where I am now. By the way, hi, I'm Joep. I've been a total fraud since about 2006. That's when someone gave me a job to work in IT. I flunked out of college. I really liked, not working, but still getting paid for it. So I started out doing, help desk, service desk, sysadmin stuff. Now this is me in 2006. And on that stage, with about 300 people in the room, talking about myself because I flunked out of university and I found a job at some local Dutch company. And I thought, hey, let's do all of the training courses they provide, which were about 40 to 50, I don't even remember, a lot. And so the CEO of the company back then said, hey, Joep, why the F are you doing all of these training courses? And I said, well, I don't know, because I'm good for nothing. I have no technical skills. I can't do anything at all. And he said, okay, but someone who does actually do all of the training courses, he's special. He's mad, he's crazy, but he's special. So come on stage, talk to all of us at the yearly assembly of the whole company. And so I did. And that's when, I was still very successful. I did a thing. I went on stage. That was kind of cool. And that's kind of my story for my entire career. Did you see the third one from the left? That's me. Not as cute though. I mean, someone tell me I'm cuter than that kitty, but now that's kind of my story for my entire career. Feeling like I don't belong. But I've done things. I now run my own company. It's called TLA. As a side note, who knows what TLA stands for? Yeah, no, but my company name is just a three-letter acronym. I couldn't figure out what to call my company, so I called it TLA. I'm something called a VMware Certified Design Expert. Not a lot of people have that. That's kind of cool. I'm a member of Tech Field Day, which is also kind of cool. It's kind of a reverse conference where people, go to cool startups, mostly in Silicon Valley, and talk to them. I still have no idea why they invited me. Someone in my team back at the company once said, "Hey, you're the world's okayest CTO." I took that as a compliment, by the way. And this is kind of my, my story, my life. I've done all these things. But it's not because, I'm not standing here because I wasn't successful. I've had success. I've done all of these things. Like this on the bottom left is DevOps Days in Amsterdam. I gave this very talk there 4 years ago, I think, 3 years ago, back before COVID was a thing. I wrote a book, Digital First Events, because I did a lot of virtual events. And I figured, okay, let's write a book. People actually bought it. That's the cool part. So I've had success. My own company is doing well. I advise startups, a very cool thing to do. So this talk is not about not being successful. I've had success. I've failed a bunch of things too, of course. But I have had success more than once, and I'm still standing here talking to you about imposter syndrome. I still feel like a fraud. It didn't go away. So I know I've had success. I also know I failed. I think about that a lot. But I've had success, and I still feel this way. Also, by the way, this is not how to disappoint an imposter. This is one, two, three, and I have many more rejections from other conferences over the years saying, hey, your talk isn't good enough. Goodbye. So this is also part of it. But my realization over the years was, hey, I'm not alone in this feeling. Maybe I have it a little more than others. Maybe I don't. That's not up to me to decide. But my conclusion was everyone deals with this at some point in their career, in their life, maybe professional, maybe not. And so, this is kind of the pie chart of people who get imposter syndrome and other people who also get it, and literally everyone else who also gets it. So I'm happy that you're all here in this, in this room with me, validating that, it is at least something to talk about with each other. One of the first moments I realized, hey, there's a definition for this. There's a term. You can look it up. It's on Google. Was when I was watching this guy's TED Talk. And this is Mike Cannon-Brookes. Hands up in the air if you know him, by any chance. He is the founder of Atlassian. He is some Australian dude who figured out, hey, people need software. I'll build it for them. So he built Atlassian as a company and a bunch of products. He's also the guy, by the way, that said to Elon Musk years ago, hey, Elon, our power delivery network in Australia really sucks. Give us a bunch of batteries. And so he did. Australia now has a big bunch of batteries helping the electrical grid because this guy on Twitter said, hey, Elon, help us. Now, I'm not a fanboy of Elon. I don't want to talk about him any more than I need to. But this guy is successful. He runs his own very big company. He said something to Elon and he listened. He is, by a lot of definitions, successful. This TED Talk is not about him being successful. This TED Talk is about him having imposter syndrome and talking about it to a bunch of people somewhere in the stage. So let's do a little exercise. I have a couple of questions up on this screen and I'll go through them fairly quickly. And if you identify with this, raise your hand and please keep it up even if we go to the next question. Okay? Do you tend to chalk up your accomplishments to luck or timing? Keep your hands up if this is true. What's the next one? Do you hate making a mistake? Being less than fully prepared or not doing things perfectly? Hands up, keep them up. Ooh, I like this. Next one. Do you fear feedback? Are you crushed even by constructive criticism? I see the box outside, by the way. That scares the shit out of me, the review box. Okay, keep them up, keep them up, keep them up. Do you live in fear? Do you live in fear of being found out, discovered, or fired? Now, I run my own company, so fired is questionable. But, okay, I see a lot of hands. I see a lot of hands. Welcome to the club. So you've proved my point that a lot of people deal with things that are adjacent to imposter syndrome, at least. Now, I don't want to say you all have imposter syndrome. That's up to you to decide for yourself. But a lot of people are bothered by these emotions, these feelings about yourself. So let's look at a definition of imposter syndrome. Now, the top part, please read it. I'm not going to repeat it. It's a bunch of very difficult words. My native language is not English. And so my translation, my definition is your internal measuring stick, your internal ruler is broken. You find it very hard to compare yourself to others. That's my definition of it. It may be right, it may be wrong. It's very right for me, at least. So who knows the emperor's clothes, right? From back in the day where the emperor was walking around without a lot of clothes. Everyone said, hey, nice clothes. So this is kind of what's happening. So you're doubting yourself privately. You're not talking about it to someone else. And so the other person is also doubting themselves privately, not talking to someone else about it. So everyone has these feelings, but no one talks about them. Or, I like this guy, I like the movies. That's, well, just your opinion, man. And the problem with imposter syndrome in IT specifically is, and I'll come back to this a little later, is everything is an opinion. There is very little fact in IT. Ever had a discussion on how to approach a problem, and there was only one way of solving that problem? That never happens, right? There's always 20 different ways, 100 different ways, depending on who you talk to. More senior people in the room will have, different kinds of options, different kind of opinions, but there's never a single way of solving it. For instance, if I run a VM somewhere, VMware, Hyper-V, Zen, the list goes on and on. I want to run something in the cloud, 20 million different options. There's never a single way of doing anything in IT. And that doesn't really help. Especially because there's a lot of people who don't know a lot yet, but think they know a lot. So I was once peak of man stupid. I was once very confident that I knew a lot of stuff. And then some senior dude at my company went, you know nothing. And that was, helpful in a sense that I learned that, oh shit, I know that I don't know a lot. And then I started climbing again. But this happens in IT constantly, continuously. Because the problem is, if I started out my career as an engineer. I did Novell. Does anyone remember that? eDirectory, SUSE Linux, NetWare. Yes, I'm that old. And then virtualization became a thing. And then I did VMware. And then virtualization wasn't a thing anymore. And so I did cloud, and I now know, a thing or two about Kubernetes. But this wave of this Dunning-Kruger effect happens, I don't know, every 3 years, every 5 years. The exact number isn't important, but it happens constantly. And that's the moving goalpost in this image. Like, I knew a lot about NetWare and Novell, and then someone moved the goalpost saying, you now got to learn virtualization. And then a couple of years later, the goalpost went to cloud or Kubernetes or whatever. And it's got to continue happening. It's a never-ending thing. So my wife, she works in the nursing field. So she's a nurse. She works with small babies, super cute. What she learned 15 years ago is still very relevant. Turns out babies don't change as quickly. I didn't know because my own 2 children, they changed pretty quickly. No, but the moving goalpost is a big contributor to this imposter syndrome problem. Because finally you know something and then you got to learn a new thing. So you just never know if the things you know are enough. And so you continuously learn more and more and more. There's never a point where you say, okay, I now know enough. I switched my slides, but that's fine. Who knows this picture? Who knows what the thing in black is? It's Saturn, right? I always forget. It's a big planet far away. We are there. That little dot, Carl Sagan, that whole pale blue dot thing, that's us. So I'm there. Do you see my struggle in this picture? No. Why? Because I'm far away. I am not talking about my feelings. Well, I am, but random example in the audience isn't talking about their feelings right now. So you don't see the struggle. It's very far away. And so this helped me in a very weird way in realizing, okay, I struggle with this. Other people probably do too. And so I, did a bunch of coaching with someone I trust. And she told me, Miriam, she told me, hey, look into the NLP model. Now, I'm not a fan necessarily of this model, but it taught me one thing, which is the filters that everyone has in front of them and in their head processing information. So what happens is I look at the world with my very unique perspective on things. I have a filter in front of my eyes and what I see, what I hear, what I smell, etc. And they help me cope with the world around me. They have been trained, from when I was little up until now. And so I have a belief system that doesn't really help me out. Because they say constantly to me, hey, Joep, you are crap. You don't know anything. You're not very good at your things. You're bad at social, whatever. They are my crap filters. That's not helpful, but they are part of me. That's what I learned. These filters are part of how I see the world. Everything I say or do, of everything that someone says to me, I filter through those filters. And so if someone gives me a compliment, I go, yeah, sure, I don't believe you. Right? And so what's the solution to all of this? Well, I talked about the definition, right? Recalibrate your internal ruler. Well, that's what you got to do. Thank you for coming to my talk. I'm done now. No, it's of course a lot more difficult than you think. It's very easy to say recalibrate your internal ruler, and then it becomes better. But there's a couple of end bosses in this game, which I am still battling. One of the things you could do is sing this every morning in a mirror to yourself. Does anyone want to give me an example of how that would sound? Can anyone hit that high note? I can't. I won't ask any of you. Maybe during a beer later. Come up to me, start singing this. You'll make me a very happy man. Okay? Agreed? You can do other things like not comparing your blooper reel to someone else's Instagram feed. And what I mean by that is we constantly see people being very successful on LinkedIn, on social intranets of your own company, on whatever. We only see what people put out there. People put out positive messages about themselves. Hey, look at me! I did a thing. I did a somersault at the beach. I tried it once. It looked like the right picture. And so I know I failed at this. I know that the right image is true for me. But if I look at LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever, I only see people's highlight reel. I only see their successes. Who thinks that really helps in solving and recalibrating that internal filter or that internal ruler? Sorry. It just doesn't. It really doesn't. Another thing you can do is practice giving and receiving compliments. So show of hands, who hates getting a compliment? A couple, okay, so let's practice. No, so we'll leave the practicing. One of the things I really learned to do is to give or to receive compliments. And then brag about one or two occasionally. So I actually write them down. If I get a compliment, I think, hey, that's a good compliment, thank you. I write them down. I haven't done it for a little while because I was stuck at home. No one gave me compliments. But there was a period of time where I actually wrote down compliments people gave me. Really helps. I also brag about them. Who here knows what, one or two compliments I bragged about a little earlier in my presentation? I'm a CTO, or I'm a VCDX, or I'm a part of Tech Field Day, or I run my own successful company. Right? I brag about stuff. Hopefully subtly enough, but who knows? But it's a thing I do, because if I brag about my own accomplishments, I am recalibrating my ruler. Because I am, in fact, the world's okayest CTO. It was literally someone said that to me, and then now I brag about that. That's easy. Okay, so compliments. I am going to step down off the stage for a moment, and I want you to pair up with the person next to you. And in turn, please give a compliment and receive it and then switch around. This is going to be super awkward, I know. It's going to be very fun for me. But what are the 3 key elements to giving a good compliment? Who knows? Who can shout, what makes a good compliment? Honest. Honest? Yes. Louder? Brave? Well, I'll turn it around a little, because otherwise we'll be here a long time. So the first is timing. The compliment has to be adjacent to the thing happening. So if you were to compliment me, please don't compliment me for being a good CTO because I haven't been a CTO for 6 years. Give me a compliment for, a presentation that I gave. The other is effort, not talent. So I have two young kids. They're 7 and 8. I always have to think. And I always give them compliments saying, you did a good job. You put in a lot of effort. I don't say, hey, you're really smart, because that fucks up their whole belief system. So a compliment has to be on effort and not a talent. And it needs to be very specific. The worst compliment you can give someone is, hey, well done. Right? So I am going to set a clock. I am going to shut up for about a minute or two, and I will let you give and receive compliments with your neighbor. Go. Oh, I feel the awkward. Okay, okay, okay. Finish it up. Finish it up. We're almost done. Okay, okay, okay. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Stop it with the compliments already. Okay, show of hands. Who thought it was awkward at first? Who thought it was still bad like 30 seconds in? Okay, 1 minute. No, but it is awkward, right? It's very weird to do, especially with people you don't know. I get it. This is playful. This is not meant to be serious. This is meant to give you an option, because I think this is my personal opinion, that people give each other A, not enough compliments, and B, they're usually not very good. So please practice this at home. Do whatever. I'm not here to tell you what to do. So another TED talk I watched years ago is about the instant gratification monkey and the procrastinator's brain. And I'm proud of myself for pronouncing that word right the first time. And so I was watching this back when I had to write my thesis for an architect certification, and I really did not want to write the damn thing. It had to be like 70 pages of technical documentation on how to deploy a VMware environment. It was horrible. And so what does any self-respecting person do? They watch YouTube until 5 minutes before the deadline. And so that's what I did. I came across an awesome TED Talk by a guy called Tim Urban. Go look him up. I'm a big fan. And he was talking about the procrastinator's brain. And so what he was telling, and what I found very compelling, is we have a couple of, primordial creatures in our brain. One says, hey, Joep, you have to do a thing. It's due in 4 weeks. Maybe we go and do the thing, right? Maybe we go and write the thesis, or, write that piece of documentation, whatever. And then 3 seconds later, the instant gratification monkey goes, nah, we still have a lot of time. Let's do some other weird shit. Watch YouTube, go outside. I don't know. I'm supposed to be building my own company, but I also really love going into woods these days, chopping down trees, taking them home, do stuff with them. That's my instant gratification monkey now. I'm still not very good at this, but at least I now know this is happening. And I used to bring the panic monster with me, like a stuffed animal, which is a big red thing that also lives in my brain that says, like a minute before the thing is due, it has to be finished. You go! It needs to be finished. And then you do all the things in 1 minute, which is also very weird because I don't like to work hard. But here's how this works. Instead of actually putting in the time, putting in the effort, doing your absolute best, this makes sure that you can say to yourself, yeah, but I didn't really spend the time and I started really late. So if it's really bad, then that's okay. It's not my fault because I did other things. And so it's a coping mechanism in your brain that protects you from actually failing. Because what this does is, yeah, it's not your fault, brain. It's for lack of time. You couldn't do it well because you didn't have the time. And that's kind of weird. But this absolutely works like this in my brain. And I remember having to write this presentation the first time I gave it, years ago. Guess what happened? I did not have a presentation on time. You're looking at a presentation built in, I don't know, like an hour before the deadline to submit the presentation to the conference. I still do this. I'm still not very good at it, but at least I know how this works now. I also know that there is a dark playground, one of the concepts explained in this video, and I really like the dark playground. And so I give myself time before I do a big thing to go and watch YouTube for a day or two. I actually factor it into my planning now because I learn somehow. I don't know. Well, we saw this. We can skip it. So what else can you do knowing that this is the case? What helped for me, and this text is really not readable very well, so I'll help you out. So what helped for me was to just ask someone, hey, how do you do planning? How do you plan if you need to do a big thing? And then I learned from him because I know now that he does it X way. And then I go to someone else saying, hey, how do you plan your work? Oh, you actually plan your work. Oh, that's great. Oh, and I learn a thing or two. And so I actually ask questions. Hey, can you show me how you work? Can you show me how you plan? Can you show me how you deal with things that you find very difficult to do? And then let others learn from you as well. That's kind of the win-win situation here, right? And so you can do a lot of things. Pair programming used to be a thing. I'm not necessarily a big fan of it, but it does show that there are ways of dealing with this. Pair review, so not peer review, but pair review. Just sit down with a couple of folks, go through code or go through a design document, go through whatever that you made, and then explain how you made it. Goes back to the first point. If you can show someone else how they work or how you work, then that's helpful. Because I think in IT, we're stuck behind a laptop way too often, not actually collaborating with someone. And for 90% of the time, that's great. Cool, continue doing that. But we need that 10%. And I think that 10% is off balance right now. And then the last one is, and I need to look here, talk about what you're bad at. So I'm very bad at making readable slides. I'm sorry. But I know I'm bad at it. So next time someone in the audience can make this slide for me. Agreed? This is how it works. You just say, hi, I'm bad at, X or Y. I need help. So trust others is my key point. Know that you're not alone. Know that others are not going to laugh at you if you say, hey, can you help me out? I'm having a difficult time. Hey, can you help me out? I'm bad at X, Y, or Z. So talk about it. It helps you because it recalibrates your ruler. It helps you figure out, hey, I'm not completely mad here. Everyone is. And also do a lot of things so that you actually talk about what's bothering you. Do public speaking like me, but not necessarily in a big room like this. Public speaking can also be one-on-one, as long as you're talking about the shit that is bothering you, right? Ask questions, give advice. And one thing I learned, so I used to do a lot of conferences back before we had this virus. And one thing I would usually do at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon is say, I don't want to socialize with anyone. I'm going to sit in my hotel room all alone. That's not a fun way to do conferences. I can tell you that. But it was me saying, yeah, but I don't really want to talk to other people and learn from them and, talk about my own feelings and other difficult things. So don't hide behind the curtains at social events. Talk about yourself. Just tell them what's bothering you, what you're good at, what you're bad at, what you need help with. It actually really works. Also, I discovered hobbies. Does anyone know what those are? Because these were new for me. So I used to work a lot. Again, I became CTO of a company. I had to work a lot. But I discovered hobbies way too late in the game. So I now have a bunch. I cook. So I bought, this is a funny story. We have time, right? Yes. I bought an old sports canteen. Is that a word everyone understands? Like an old place where people came together after sports. So with a bunch of friends, I bought one of those old buildings. I bought a kitchen in it, and not just a normal kitchen, but a really big kitchen. It's probably about 3-4 times the size of this room. And we put a lot of kitchen equipment in it. We asked a bunch of people, hey, do you want to come cook for us or with us every week or every month or whatever? So now I own a cooking workshop. That's a fun hobby. But the fun part is we can always order pizzas if the recipe doesn't really turn out to be edible food. I ordered a bunch of pizza, and that's fine. With my friends, we go into this every month knowing that if we F up, we can always just eat pizza. Another cool example is the picture on the top right. That's an FPV drone. And this is the first one I built from scratch. I ordered a bunch of parts from, some Chinese website. I soldered, I configured software, I did the whole thing. Then I started flying. 3 seconds later, the damn thing crashed. And I was very happy. I started over, fixing the thing, flying again, becoming better at it. And here's the thing. This is why a hobby is important, because you can do it wrong a bunch of times and there are no consequences. I remember in my work, back when I wasn't my own boss, that I had a boss who, could become very mad if I did a thing wrong. Maybe not very helpful. But in a hobby, turns out you can just fuck it up and no one cares. I also do mono skiing on the bottom right there. You have to be a little careful when you fuck that up because that's a little dangerous. I've fallen down a bunch of times. And the other one is wood chopping. So all of the wood you see in that woodshed, I took out of the forest myself with a chainsaw. I have all 10 fingers. I'm very proud of myself. But these are all things that I do because there's no consequences involved. It's just fun to do. And so for people that are constantly improving, learning, in the Dunning-Kruger cycle, this may help. Because doing something where you just learn because you think it's fun, and it doesn't really matter what you do, and if you succeed or not, then that's helpful. Okay, I told you somewhere in the presentation that there's an end boss to this whole game. Welcome, we've now entered the final level. So how to identify your limiting beliefs, or figuring out that A, you have them, B, you can do something about them, is really what I'm here to tell you. This lady I am totally in love with, Brené Brown. She lives very far away, and that's a good thing. Because I have read all of her books, I read all of her blog articles, I've seen all of her videos. She is fantastic because what she says is being vulnerable isn't really bad. It takes courage to do that. And if you have those, if you're able to talk about yourself in a true, honest way, then that may be the thing that helps you beat your imposter syndrome. And so I've added a little twist. I don't think she talks a lot about imposter syndrome at all. But this is really what it's about. Because if you're able to talk about yourself honestly and say, hi, I'm Joep, I'm apparently very bad at making slide decks, then that helps you become, just yourself. And so my end boss is being myself, saying, hey, I'm bad at creating slide decks. I enjoy giving a presentation to you all, and that's me. Because years ago, I would say, hey, I'm Joep and I'm a CTO. It literally identified who I was. That wasn't a good thing. And so now I'm just, hey, I'm Joep and I'm, whatever. Right? So if I give you anything today, then it is go watch the TED Talk by Brené Brown from, I don't know how long ago. It's something about empathy. I'll have the titles of the TED Talks here. And with that, I have one request before we leave this room. I would love an in-person compliment after this talk. I think that's better than the box outside. I will not look at that box because it really scares the shit out of me. Also, if you want help with this, send me an email, joep@tlatech.io. I'm here to help you in whatever way I can. With that, I hope you have a good rest of the show, and we'll talk off stage. Thank you very much.